So has this ever happened to you? You're painting, having lots of fun, you're getting really close to feeling like you're finished, but you're not quite sure if it's done. Or maybe you feel like, oh, I don't know if it really has enough, or it might be that, God, was that last brushstroke too much? This is one of the most common questions I have from my students is how do I know when my abstract painting is done? So what I find is that some students stop way too soon, they call it done too early, and others overwork it. So today I'm going to show you some practical signs from my own paintings so I can help you understand when a painting is finished and when it's not. Today you're going to learn why it's so hard to know when to stop, practical signs that show you it might be finished, signs to look out for to know that it's not quite there, and simple techniques you can use to evaluate your work effectively. By the way, go ahead and just hit the like button real fast. It really helps my channel a lot. Thank you so much. So first of all, why is it so hard to know when to stop? So when it comes to abstract painting, it's hard to know when to stop because there's not something that we're copying. We don't have the landscape with everything laid out for us. And so it's harder to know when the end of the painting really is. So that is what's really freeing about abstract painting is that we can do whatever we want, but it's also what makes it really difficult. There's not really a clear end point. So as a result, we tend to second guess ourselves and have a hard time knowing when it's actually finished. And the thing is, learning to understand your work and understand if it's finished takes some practice. And some things you can do is go to museums and galleries to look at finished artworks to help you start to train your eye. But what's even more important is to understand your own work and your own style and when in your world it feels finished. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's first talk about some signs to know when it's not finished. I'm going to use some paintings behind me to give you an example. First one we're going to look at is there are large areas that are unresolved or there's nothing going on. So this painting is a perfect example of that. And this painting has gone through many iterations and many different layers, but we can see this really huge green spot here, right? We have a bit of detail in the sky area and we have a bit of detail in the ground, but we have this huge spot that just needs something. So the colors are really beautiful, the forms and the marks are nice, but we have a big area that's just not dealt with and there's not really a clear focal point. There's not really a lot of interest in this painting because we just don't know what to do and we look right at this middle part. Now, this painting I actually was considering done because I pulled back. Sometimes I also overwork my paintings. I've been painting for 30 years and I still overwork my stuff. So I said, ooh, I know that like this blue part feels kind of blank, but I also kind of like that. And I loved it with this color. And so I was going to call it done. But then just before this video, I thought, you know, I'm not sure about this blue. I don't know if it really works. And so what I did was I flipped it upside down. And when I did that, notice this big blue blank area and how much it sticks out, especially since it's right next to this big yellow blank area. Okay, so we don't have contrast there. And so this area probably draws your eye quite a bit. Now, let me point out another area in this painting where we have just this sort of brush stroke with not a lot of detail, and that's this one here. Okay, but what's the difference? Notice that this big brush stroke is surrounded by lots of detail. There are a lot of different things going on. So it's sort of like a nice little area of rest for the eye in a bunch of texture and a bunch of different colors and forms and things. But this is a big area that's flat, just a flat color that's around a lot of flatness. And so what I will probably do to finish this is just take this blue-green that you can see is kind of below this color here and just do a quick scumble. That's it. Taking the palette knife and scumble right over that. So that will probably finish this painting. It's just one little subtle thing I have to do. And here's the deal. If you're thinking, oh, don't do that, it looks great, don't mess with it. We also can't get too worried about doing the things that are clear that need to be done. Okay, we have to take some risks, and what you can do is just get a wet rag. I use like old washcloths or t-shirts, wet it, and just be ready to wipe it out if you don't like it. It's not a big deal, but it's good to try and check it out and see if it works. And I think it's going to definitely help this painting. So let's go back to this one again. And another thing that you might find in a painting that it's not finished, doesn't feel finished, the values might feel kind of flat. Like we don't have a good range from dark to light, really dark darks, really light lights. And we do have a bit of that here, but we have this huge section in the middle that are all relatively the same values, and it's not very interesting. If I were to have different values of yellow, green, maybe like going to the lighter end, not darker, this would be a lot more interesting. It would help move the eye instead of just getting stuck here. So if you find that your painting doesn't have a lot of different value changes, that's another sign that it might need some more work. Another sign is that the painting doesn't have a clear focal point. So I love what's happening in this painting. I love some of the textures, some of the things that are going on, but we don't really have a clear focal point, and it's very busy. So as opposed to the piece that has not enough going on and too much areas of uninterest, this has way too much going on. So maybe this is a focal point, but it's not really sticking out as such. Or maybe this is, but it's getting a little bit lost in all the busyness. So this piece, it just needs something a little bit different. It actually really needs a risky move, if you ask me. I think I need to cover up a lot in this painting. And I am going to record myself working this painting and trying to fix it and trying to bring it to a place of being finished. When that tutorial is finished, I'm going to link that at the end of this video, so just look out for that. But this needs probably a bold move, a big dry brush over it, and just kind of tone everything out because it's too busy. There's too much going on. And then we're going to confuse the viewer. They don't know where to look, and they're not going to be interested in looking at the piece. Another sign to look out for to see if your painting is finished is ask yourself, is it too safe? And I'm going to explain to you why this painting is a little bit too safe. So I do a lot of abstract landscapes. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I like to make them really edgy and push them and confuse the viewer. This is a painting that I did in a demo. I teach in-person painting classes. And I like it. It's a nice painting, but it's very safe for me. I've done this kind of thing before. Here's our horizon line. We've got a bunch of texture. We've got some drips. It's just safe for me. So it might not be safe for you, but for me and what I do, it feels very safe. Now, whether or not I'll actually paint over this is a different story. Sometimes, these types of paintings are great gifts. They're great, they're great donations to auctions, like in the community, because it's a nice painting, but it's not something I'm interested in sort of selling or putting on my website, right? It's for sale if you like it. So you want to take yourself outside of your comfort zone, okay? You want to make sure what you're doing has a little risk element to it. Now let's look at a painting that is finished, that I've determined is finished, is varnished, it's on my website, it's priced, the whole 9 yards, okay? So first of all, what we're looking for is balance. I like to look for balance. Do we have heavy visual weight and light visual weight, dark colors, light colors, different types of line, different types of values, different types of marks? That's what I look for, is balance of some sort. We have a lot of balance here. We have dark and light, we have straight line, curvy lines, we have dots. And so it feels very balanced as opposed to this painting, which is not balanced. There's too much of a big area where nothing is going on, and it's just too light, and it doesn't have enough detail or visual interest. The other thing to look for is every area feeling considered, okay? So does every part of this painting look like I thought about it? And I'm gonna just hold it a little bit closer, okay? So does it look like the right quadrant, the top right, look at the top left quadrant, look at the bottom left quadrant, look at the bottom right quadrant, look at the middle, okay? Is every area addressed and dealt with? Now you might say, well, you've got that big empty area in the middle. That's actually purposeful. I do that because as you saw when it was closer, there's a lot of detail and a lot of layers in this piece. This is my area of rest for the viewer. If I had a bunch of details in the middle here, it would be too overwhelming. It'd be like the other painting I just had that I said I want to work over. We have to have some rest for the eye so that we can just sort of like, take a breather and let's go back to the beautiful detail again, okay? So you want to have some areas of contrast where lots of detail and not a lot of detail. The next thing is, this might sound really simple, but you really like looking at it. You love it. You're not really sure why, but you really love it. And if that's how you feel about your painting, call it done. It's your painting after all. It's a little bit different if you're painting for, like a gallery or, you're a professional artist and you want to put things in your website, then you have to be more discerning with this. But if it's for you, it's for gifts for friends, then if you love it, call it done. The next thing I want you to look out for is that if you were to do something different, it would feel forced. So if I look at this closely and think, okay, what could I add if I wanted to add something? I suppose I could add a bit more detail on some of the sides here, but then I would fear it being too busy. I mean, maybe I could do some more straight lines up here if I wanted to, right? Like there's a few things, maybe more of this gestural marker. Maybe I had more on this side. We don't want to overwork it, right? So we have to have that balance. I had a teacher tell me once, work until it's 70% finished, okay? And then I'm going to add to that and then live with it, okay? So live with it, hang it up in your living room, in your studio, a place where you walk by a lot, and look at it from different light at night, during the day, right? See, like at night, does it have enough contrast still? It might have enough light during the day when the sun is hitting it, but maybe in the evening, it really gets dull. So it's good to observe your painting in your surroundings so you can really see if it actually feels finished or not. Now, by the way, if you like this information I'm giving you, I'm actually running a free abstract painting challenge. It's August 18th, 2025. It's that whole week. I will be giving you free access to one of my lessons on how to paint an abstract landscape, and you'll get 30 days access to that lesson. And you will also get Q&As every day, a private Facebook group where I give feedback, and the challenge is only $10. If you want to get more information about it, there's a link right below in the description. And if it's after August 2025, don't worry, I have another link for you to another free class. It's 5 tips on how to make stunning abstract paintings. And a lot of students have taken this class and have really seen a lot of change in their work afterwards. So that'll be in the description below if you don't see if it's after August 2025. So here's some other techniques that you can use to figure out if your painting is finished. So number 1, we talked about hanging up and living with it. Number 2 is take a break. Just like work on something else and let it sort of sit aside so that you don't risk overworking it. Another idea is to hold it to a mirror. So you're looking at the painting on the mirror side. So you see it in reverse image, or of course, looking at it upside down. If it still seems really balanced upside down, it feels like it's still working, then most likely it's done. And I like to say that if a painting works on any direction that you hold it, then that is a sign of a really good balanced painting. It doesn't mean that it's the most amazing painting in the world, but it's a good sign that the painting is at least balanced. Another thing you could do is you could photograph it and then go into Canva or even on your phone, and you could mess around. You could change the colors. You could add marks. You could remove marks. So if you know how to use Canva or even Photoshop, that's a great way to just sort of try out some ideas before you actually do it on the canvas. And just make sure you ask yourself questions. Do I love it? Does it feel balanced? Does it feel too much? Is there a clear focal point? These are really good questions to ask. The one thing I'd be careful of is asking someone else if it's finished. Maybe another artist that you really trust that has a really good eye, but random person, friend, spouse, mom, brother, not always trained in how to look at art. So I would not ask someone else unless they're really trusted, someone with a really good eye who understands art. Even then, remember, it's your own painting, so whatever feedback they give, you always have to feel really comfortable on your own and feel like, yeah, I should add that black mark there. So I also want to say something about pushing beyond your comfort zone. Adding anything to this painting and putting something on here makes you a little uncomfortable, and it makes you want to say, don't do it. Or you might say, no, I might mess it up. Try to get rid of that fear, especially with, honestly, any paint. The only medium that's not very forgiving is watercolor. It's hard to fix a watercolor mistake. But when it comes to acrylic and oil, you can wipe it right out as long as what's under is dry. So make sure before you do anything new that you're not sure about, make sure it's really dry. You can even put on a layer of Golden or Liquitex's glazing medium. Just put the whole layer on as an interference layer, and that will kind of almost semi-varnish it so that whatever you do on top, even if you do a whole bunch, you can remove it pretty easily and not mess up what's under the painting. But there is something to be said for pushing outside of your comfort zone. It's like this balance of risks that we have to take in abstract painting. Taking a lot of risks sometimes, but sometimes also holding back a little bit. So you have to find that balance, and it takes years to figure that out. Sometimes it is one bold mark that makes the painting exciting. What do you think is the bold mark that finished this painting for me? If you guessed that it was the black lines, then you're 100% correct. I don't always put black directly into my paintings, and so that was bold as it was, but also it was a really dark color against a very pastel-y background, but it's what finished it. Once I did that, that painting was finished. So sometimes it does take that bold brushstroke to call it finished. In fact, I had an abstract painting teacher once say, if you don't know what needs to happen in your painting, add black. So you could try that on too. So to conclude here, you will start to learn to develop your own sort of sense of doneness in your own paintings. It takes practice and time. And if you want more of a community and help around that, go ahead and join my challenge. Again, that link is right below. It's going to be a really fun 5-day experience where you're going to learn how to paint a beautiful abstract landscape and get support from me. I'll be answering questions. So join that or take the class that's in the link below to get some more instruction on how you can develop your voice more in your painting. So I want to leave you with this. Trust yourself. Every painting you make teaches you something new. So trust yourself and above all, keep painting. Once again, be sure to subscribe so you can get my latest videos right in your feed, and like the video and check out these other 2 videos here. I think they will be of interest to you. If you like this video and you're here at the end, I think these are going to be really helpful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.